This is Our News, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight. The Transport Minister reveals some startling statistics on traffic fatalities. Plus, so said, so done. Now that government has found a buyer for the Grand Lucayan Resort, the Tourism Minister hits back at critics. And we introduce you to the new National Teacher of the Year.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. Topping news this evening, the Minister of Transport revealing some startling statistics when it comes to traffic fatalities in recent years. According to Transport Minister Renwick Wells, traffic fatalities are starting to rival homicide statistics. Wells used the stats to bolster the administration's push to amend the Road Traffic Act. We get that story tonight from our Jasmine Brown.
Last year, around 2018, we had more deaths in the first 3 months of the year than we had murders in the Bahamas. More deaths by traffic fatalities.
According to Wells, during the first 3 months of 2018, deaths due to vehicular traffic have reportedly equaled homicide rates. Wells noted that there has been a marked increase in the amount of deaths, as he revealed 44 people died during 2016, 55 in 2015, 37 in 2014, and 51 in 2013. And so far this year, 12 people have died as a result of traffic accidents, making road traffic deaths the 13th leading cause of death in the Bahamas. And Wells says there is an even higher percentage among 3 to 26-year-olds.
I think we have to realize that in our push for modernity and making the Bahamas more modern, we created a lot more highways. Bahamians were used to just single lane traffic for the most part in New Providence and single lane traffic throughout the entire Family Islands with the exception of Grand Bahama. And so with our speed limit being 45 miles an hour in a whole lot of places and Bahamians just chugging along one car behind the other, you could get away with doing certain things.
Parliamentarians debated and passed the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2018 in the House of Assembly on Wednesday. The bill will criminalize the use of cell phones and other electronic communication devices while driving, along with making it illegal to drive with open alcoholic beverages. It will also make a driver's failure to produce a driver's license on request of a uniformed police officer an offense, which could lead to an arrest. The bill will also require the payment of outstanding fines in respect of traffic offenses before the granting of a driver's license or a public service driver's license.
For me, it's legislation about life and how we save lives, how we make the life and fortune of the Bahamian people, how we increase the life and fortune of the Bahamian people.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
All right, thanks a lot, Jasmine. Well, in news from the crime beat, one man is fighting for his life in hospital after he was found shot multiple times above the body. Grand Bahama police were called to a business establishment on the East Mall Drive shortly around 11 last night. When they arrived, they met the man lying on the inside with several gunshot wounds. He was subsequently taken to the Rand Memorial Hospital, where he is listed in critical condition. Police are appealing to anyone with information on this shooting to contact them. Meantime, over on Grand Bahama, officers there are discovering dangerous drugs on that island. Acting on information, they were led to the area of Whispering Pines, where they discovered 2 packages of suspected marijuana. The weight of the packages was 8 pounds with an estimated street value of $8,000. No arrests were made in connection to this find. In other news this evening, the Tourism Minister is praising the government's movement in finding a new buyer for the Grand Lucayan Resort, claiming the forward movement should speak volumes to the government's critics. Our Jillian Gray has more in this report.
After signing that letter of intent with Royal Caribbean Cruises and the ITM Group for the purchase of the Grand Lucayan Resort, Tourism Minister Dionisio de Aguilar was bold in responding to those who criticized the government's purchase of the resort.
We got criticized by a number of groups for taking what I think was a bold decision to buy it with the intention of never operating it for an extended period of time, but to selling it on to someone else. And we are now beginning that journey to do that. We have entered into an agreement to start the negotiations to complete that process. So, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And if I was a resident of Grand Bahama, I would be feeling quietly optimistic.
Royal Caribbean Cruises and the ITM Group intend to purchase the property for $65 million. The first phase of the $195 million development is expected to create 2,000 jobs over 2 years, a point D'Aguilar heralded. While the opposition's deputy leader said he's still skeptical of the entire deal, claiming the government must reveal the total cost it has poured into the Grand Lucayan Resort. Now, while he said he does not have the exact figure, the tourism minister said the administration spent no more than previous administrations who would have subsidized that resort. He then made it clear that despite the opposition's skepticism, the numbers do add up.
Probably over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I don't know how far back, this property has been receiving subsidies probably to the tune of $10 to $20 million a year. So we feel that we continue to trend that has been long-standing. So I don't think, and certainly if you look at the math, bought it for 65, sold it for 65, we allocated 25 in the budget for operating expenses. If we're in the ballpark of 10 to 15, I don't know the specific number, then we have additional headroom in the budget left.
While they've made progress with the sale of the resort, managers at the property have yet to receive their voluntary separation packages from the government. D'Aguilar said he believes managers are not budging in negotiations because they think the government will give them a sweeter deal than if they were under a private owner. He quickly slammed that notion, saying the Minis administration is all about properly managing the people's finances, and managers should take a lesson from the adage, fish or cut bait.
I think the union at least adopted the strategy of saying, well, now they're employees of the state. They should be afforded the very generous severance packages that the employees of BTC may have gotten or the Hotel Corp might have gotten in the past. And we're like, no. We took over this hotel at the end of August, maybe 6-7 months ago, and that doesn't entitle you to that very generous severance packages that those long-serving employees of state-owned enterprises would have realized.
Line staff at the resort received their payouts last month, and D'Aguilar said it's up to the managers if they want to hold off even longer or take the current package and move on with their life. Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks a lot, Jillian. Meantime, criminal defense attorney Cristina Galanos is responding to comments made by the Minister of National Security. In a recent interview with Our News, Marvin Dame suggested that criminal defense attorneys were more concerned with the rights of their clients than they are for the safety of witnesses. Our Jared Higgs tells us more.
In an interview with Our News on March 20th, Dames was asked whether he felt police were in the habit of beating confessions out of suspects. In his response, the National Security Minister asserted that witnesses are often intimidated and even harmed, telling criminal defense attorneys to talk about that. Well, Galanos says that response was not acceptable.
Well, I note with interest that he did not specifically address the issue of police brutality. He instead decided to speak about witness intimidation, which is not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is police brutality. Now, I dare not tell the minister how to do his job, but I would have thought that the proper response in these circumstances would have been for the Minister of National Security to condemn all forms of police brutality.
A video that circulated on social media last week showed a man being escorted to a waiting ambulance at the Central Detective Unit. Galanos said the man was her client and that he was beaten by police. She also noted that there is little difference between an innocent person who's beaten by police and a witness who is intimidated.
The truth of the matter is that a person who was beaten to confess to a crime that he did not commit is no less of a victim than a witness who's been intimidated. And So we're talking about apples and oranges, but they're still victims. It still falls within the category of a victim.
Galanos insists that she isn't just spewing her personal opinion. She says the courts will toss out a confession if things don't add up.
There have been numerous cases before the courts that, or where justices of both the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have excluded confessions on the basis that they did not feel sure that those confessions were voluntarily made and were not as a result of police brutality. And so it's not as if, I'm reinventing the wheel or I'm speaking about something that doesn't occur. But if the Minister of National Security would rather see a guilty man go free because the police beat a confession out of that person, well, that's on him.
Ultimately, Galanos says she is passionate about justice and ensuring that people are treated fairly. She sent this message to police detectives.
You have a guilty man. You sure he committed this crime, or you have evidence to suggest that he committed this crime, and you do nothing else. You don't get any witness statements. You don't get any DNA or anything like that. The camera, showing circumstantial evidence or anything. You just beat a confession out of him. Even though he is guilty, if you leave bruises on him and the court is satisfied that that confession was not obtained voluntarily, then what happens is that he walks free. So in essence, you kind of let a guilty man off with essentially a top up. Is that what we want? Or, because the law says the punishment for murder and other serious offenses, 30 years to 60 years for murder in particular. Would you prefer for them to serve that time as stipulated by the law? Or would you prefer for your emotions to run high and for you to beat them? And a court say, hey, listen, the confession is all you have. There's bruises on this man. I'm not concerned that this confession was obtained voluntarily, and so I'm not gonna allow the jury to see it. Do you have anything else, prosecution? No, we don't have anything else. So what happens next?
Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jared Higgs.
From the education sector tonight, a second-grade teacher at E.P. Roberts Primary was awarded the title of National Teacher of the Year last evening. Waynette Bethel Hanner beat out 47 other exceptional educators to walk away with the top prize during the Ministry of Education's 13th Annual National Teacher of the Year Award ceremony held at the Atlantis Resort. The event was the culmination of several days of events to celebrate and honor the outstanding teachers.
For this opportunity. It is definitely a pleasure for this honor to be bestowed upon me. I just want to tell everyone all is not lost with the teaching profession. Excellent teachers still exist.
Giovanni Clark of C.V. Bethel Senior High School was first runner-up. Rashana Curry of Jack Haywood High School out of Grand Bahama was awarded second runner-up, while Krishana Walgoose from the Beacon School, also out of Grand Bahama, was third runner-up. As he addressed the audience, Education Minister Jeff Lloyd thanked the exceptional contingent of educators whose contributions are often taken for granted.
There's probably no other soul in the universe that has been more impactful in your life, probably than your parents, than a teacher. You can look back and see in your grade 1 or preschool or junior high or high school and college years, somebody who believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. I congratulate and thank you for the outstanding example you show this country of dedication, passion, commitment, and excellence.
And while an objective of the National Teacher of the Year initiative is to highlight the significant role of teachers in nation building, Lloyd says it will take a collective effort to give teachers the recognition they truly deserve.
And it is the responsibility of policymakers like myself and other elders within our Bahamian community to see how we can restore and regenerate that noble esteem that teachers deserve. But you know what? That is also your responsibility and this community. We do not do so by disrespecting our teachers. by challenging and assaulting our teachers and demeaning our teachers in the presence of our children, your children. It is you and I, beloved, that must form ourselves into a team so that these wonderful lamps of light, who have more influence, believe it or not, in the life of your child than sometimes you do.
The National Teacher of the Year competition is held once every 2 years. Well, still ahead tonight, BPL prepping for an increase in customer complaints. We'll tell you why when our news, the weekend edition, returns.